John Nicholson is president of the Citizens Committee for Restructured Government. The CCRG exposes the real issues plaguing our world and the solutions to help save it. The implementation of beneficial philosophies, technologies, and economics to heal our world is their primary focus. Please note that the CCRG is not here to just talk about the problem. They are here to offer a constitutionally sound method for restoring our great nation. John Nicholson.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming down here today. And you guys are all very special people. I just want to ask a quick question. Did anybody have any issues getting here, any obstacles, problems with their car, or bad directions or anything? I see a couple of hands in the audience. Okay. Basically, I'd like to let everybody here know that there is a specific difference between what we do and, unfortunately, I dare say this, what a lot of other people do. And God bless the gentleman who was up here before. He presented some excellent information. I just want to fill in a few of the gaps. But also the main difference between the CCRG and almost everybody else is we're not here to just go like this. Okay, we're not here to just talk about the problem. And we all have a programming in our minds where if we just expose the problem, we think that the morality police are going to come out of the woodwork and fix the problem. It doesn't work like that. It's up to you and I to get together and call upon a much higher power than the force of evil that is dictating policy right now. By a show of hands, has anybody out there ever seen a TV show called Dark Skies? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, not bad. 8. Excellent. I strongly recommend anybody taking notes out there that they acquire somehow a copy of the TV show Dark Skies back in 1996. It is an actual portrayal, and by the way, they don't change the names to protect the guilty. They use real names, they mention names, and it's a story of the alien takeover of our world. And one of the real reasons why nothing gets done on this planet is because, you know, we're basically, our DNA is approximately 3 points different than what a chimpanzee DNA would be. So, you know, forgive me, but we're basically, you know, talking monkeys. God forgive me. We use less than 10% of our brains, 5% of our minds, and there's a reason why nothing's really getting done. And another show of hands, are there any Christians out there, just out of curiosity? Okay, so we got a few out there. All right, by the time I'm done, you're going to be real happy to be a Christian. Because one of the reasons why nothing's getting done is because all of these New Age philosophies and techniques and things like that are not given to us to help us. It's another form of enslavement. Real brief, I'm sure everybody here has heard about the scandals of the Catholic Church and the pedophilia charges and things like that, correct? Everybody's heard all that? How many people have heard of the Franklin cover-up? Okay, quite a few, so we have a pretty aware crowd here tonight. Basically, in the old days, the Catholic Church, you didn't call the cops in the old days. When the Freemasons came to rape your wife and kids, you didn't call the police. You contacted your priest, you contacted somebody from your church, and they sent a couple of guys down on horseback to take care of business. Joan of Arc, 19 years old, she wasn't fighting the English, she was leading armies against Freemasonry. Now, we're going to look at things in terms of energy, but we're also going to look at things in terms of what's really going on, not what feels good and what people want us to think and things like that. In 1963, the Vatican was officially taken over. And by the way, this country is owned by the Virginia Company, which is owned by the Vatican, and which is all Freemasonry. The gentleman that was up here before, he covered a lot of ground, and I'm going to just fill in the gaps. But he definitely covered a lot of ground. So when I mention Freemasonry, you know what we're talking about. In 1963, the Freemasons were trying to take over the Vatican and trying to take over the Catholic Church throughout time, but they officially did it in 1963. They also changed the Mass. I don't know if any of you people out there remember the Mass was done in Latin. They also changed the Mass to the English Mass, which is the Freemasonic throw a dollar in the basket hallelujah Mass. Has nothing to do with invoking a much higher power to override all this Satanism that's happening in our reality. What else happened in 1963, ladies and gentlemen, that was a pivotal point in our nation's history? You got it. The assassination of John F. Kennedy, who was also Catholic, Christian, who was going after the Freemasons in the Federal Reserve, in the CIA. He fired Allen Dulles, who was also director of Central Intelligence at the time. And as soon as the Masons took care of Kennedy, they took over the Vatican. And the old prayers, which were done in Latin, had certain invocations. It's almost like reverse witchcraft. Witchcraft summons upon nature and Satanism to do what it wants. And Christianity, traditional Roman Catholicism, calls upon Jesus and St. Michael to kick some butt. Kick Satan's butt, to be more specifically. So by taking over the Vatican and allowing people of questionable integrity into the seminaries, the priests, that had questionable sexuality, the Freemasons who controlled the media could at one point go, oh, look what the Catholic Church is doing to little children, further discrediting and disgracing the only thing that we have, ladies and gentlemen, that stands in between a complete global dictatorship and our freedoms. Now, many of you would question that. Well, like I said, in the old days, you didn't call the police. And a lot of people say, oh, well, the Catholics eliminated, they wiped out a lot of cultures. Well, that may be partially true, but in the 1500s, when Cortez went to Mexico, and he saw that Montezuma was sacrificing children and people on pyramids, and he had slavery, which, by the way, is not Catholic or Christian, Cortez said to the slaves, what do you want to do? Because our religion says, if you want to be set free, we have to set you free. Our God, as the Son of God, Jesus Christ, we can set you free, but you got to want it. Now, who wants to live in chains and slavery and watch your virgin child get sacrificed on a pyramid? So in summary, if the Catholics didn't get involved in the 1500s, you'd be able to go to Mexico right now, and part of the tourist attraction would be to watch a child get sacrificed on a pyramid. Okay? So if you want to say that the Catholics wiped out some culture, they were wiping out Satanism. Adultery is not Christian. Murder is not Christian. Rape is not Christian. The rape of the environment. Jesus also said that we are the stewards to our environment. We're supposed to take care of the environment, right? Makes sense? Are we the stewards to our environment? Or are we just living day by day, trying to survive, while the plankton in our oceans, which creates 70% of the Earth's oxygen supply, is destroyed by ocean dumping companies that pay $25,000 a day to dump, but they're making $10 million a day to dump, so that's not going to stop. Rainforests provide the other 30% of the Earth's oxygen supply. They're being wiped out at an acre a second. So before we try to focus on more complex issues like spirituality and religion and Illuminati and this and that, why don't we figure out what's going on with the planetary oxygen supply? Because regardless of our race, creed, colors, and religions, we all need oxygen, right? Nobody here can live more than a few minutes without oxygen. How many people here know how the planet makes oxygen? Well, you guys are a pretty aware crowd, and I saw a lot of hands with Franklin cover-up and things like that. And just so you know, the normal crowd, out of 100 people, there would be one person that heard about the Franklin cover-up, and 99 people know about the pedophilia charges of the Catholic Church. And again, that is not Catholicism. So it would make sense that the Freemasons would have to take over the church. They would have to kill a Catholic president, which, by the way, ever since Kennedy, we haven't had a president. The president does not run this country, ever. He is merely a figurehead for the secret government, as Jay had mentioned earlier, the Illuminati, Freemasons, things like that. But now who's controlling them? And who's controlling them? So we're going to go right to the core of the problem. We're going to go right to the core of the solution. And then you have to ask yourselves, how far do you want to go? Where's your line in the sand before you're done doing this and ready to take care of business? Because that's what we're here to discuss today. So getting back to the Catholic Church, in 1963, the Masons officially took over the Vatican. They killed Kennedy. They allowed the people of questionable integrity into the seminaries, of questionable sexuality as well, that would molest children. And the media, which the Masons control, could go, oh, look what the Catholic Church is doing to little children. Again, how many people out there heard of the Franklin cover-up, which is the government-sponsored child prostitution rackets and ritual murder? Everybody remember JonBenet Ramsey? Little girl that was killed in Colorado, December 25th, Christmas Day, 1996. 9 detectives resigned off the case. Nobody went to jail on that. And when we were starting to ruffle some feathers and beating the grass and watching the snakes come out, the Masons launched a disinformation campaign that they found the person who did it. His entire family said they were with him on Christmas Day. It was a scam, basically, because we were making some waves and the Masons had to cover their asses. And that's one of the ways they did it. Nobody ever went to jail for that. 9 detectives resigned off the case, and it's another Masonic ritual murder. Now, for practical purposes, I'm going to refer to the traditional Roman Catholic Church as Vatican I, Latin Mass. Vatican II is the Vatican Council, the Vatican II post-1963 Council, which, again, is all Freemasons. Also, when you check divorce statistics, to give you an example of reverse witchcraft, which is what traditional Catholicism is supposed to do, the world right now is at about a 50 to a 60% divorce rate. When you go to a traditional Roman Catholic church, it's less than 1%. Their children are not blowing stuff up and breaking things and going crazy and yelling and screaming in the church. The reason being is under Vatican I, they're calling upon the power of Christ to keep their marriage together, to rebuke Satan out of their marriage, out of their children, out of their existence. And that's why when you do that, you have a normal, happy, healthy relationship, and your children aren't driving you to the point of insanity. And unless you call upon that higher power, you're not going to do it. If you achieve it, great. You're the minority. The majority never achieve it. Traditionalist Christian religions, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, what happened with Freemasonry is Freemasonry had to get rid of Christianity. They had to do it because that is the only thing that stood in the way of their complete takeover of the world. Now, I don't know if anybody here has heard the saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So now let's look at who's destroying the planet. Freemasonry. Who's raping children? Freemasonry. Most of our government leaders? Freemasonry. Vatican II? Freemasonry. It's everywhere. It's been around at least since the days of the pyramids. And don't buy into the story that the Illuminati showed up in the 17th. No. Satan's been around for a lot of years. He's been around since the days of the pyramids, thousands and thousands of years ago, BC times. And there was slavery back then. There was ritual abuse. There was ritual murder. There was child sacrifice. Anybody hear of anybody sacrificing a child in a Catholic Mass? Okay. Well, exactly, because this doesn't happen. Jesus was not about pedophilia. He was not about murdering the environment, murdering each other. He was about love, honor, respect. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt be the steward to the environment. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Whereas paganistic religions, do whatever you want. So that's the reason, I should say one of the main reasons why they went after the Catholic Church. And they did a great job. Because like I said, you walk out in the street, you ask 100 people, have you know about the scandals of the Catholic Church? They all put their hands up. What about the Franklin cover-up? One person puts their hand up. That's not an accident, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why they wanted to get rid of it, because it was the only thing, and still is, the only thing that stood in the way. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples of that, which I'm sure you'll be able to relate to quite easily. So once they officially took over, the world's been going to hell in a handbasket. All of our presidents have been Freemasons. Lincoln was actually working with Catholics to implement the Emancipation Proclamation to free the slaves. It was a Christian thing. And but we know what happened to him. John F. Kennedy, we know what happened to him. McKinley, we know what happened to him. All presidents that were assassinated were implementing policies in direct contradiction to Satanism and Freemasonry. So, the reason why I mentioned the enemy of my enemy is my friend, because if you had the chance to research the satanic documentation that is in the books of Freemasonry, you will note that there is a line that says, "It is our duty," and I quote, "it is our duty to hasten the destruction of the Roman Catholic Church." Why is that? How come they don't mention the born-agains, or the Lutherans, or the New Age people, or atheists, or Wiccan witches? How come they don't mention that? Because they control them. That's why. When a Freemason sees a traditionalist Roman Catholic, he starts shaking in his boots. when he sees a nature worshiper or a Wiccan witch or somebody from a non-traditionalist Roman Catholic faith? He's not concerned. He's only concerned if we get involved. Because it is not our duty to sit here and talk and glorify Satan and all the things he does to our nation and to our children. It is our duty to unite our fellow brothers and sisters and take these lowlifes out. And I don't mean take them out to lunch either. Now, one thing that we're discussing, or I should say presenting, discussion will definitely be later, is that you must realize that there is a difference. And if any other guest speaker today or tomorrow says, okay, boys and girls, sign up to go kick some butt, you notice they won't do that. They will expose, they will expose, they will expose, and they will expose. And read this book and read this New Age manual. Where's the How Do We Go Kick Satan's Ass manual? That's what I want to see. That's what my people want to see. Now, the battle is not without peril. Between 93 and 97, I had a great life. I'm a pilot, sailor, scuba diver, traveled around the world, had a really, really good time. I was born and raised in the Greek Orthodox Church. Couldn't get any better. It was really a good time. Then some former special agent for the U.S. Treasury saw me on a TV show one day, and he said, I got to talk to this guy. We hooked up, downloaded the whole conspiracy regarding what I had in my files, and he said, a lot of what you're saying relates to Scripture. A lot of what you're saying relates to when the Blessed Virgin Mother appeared at various places throughout the world, which you never hear about in other religions, where in 1865 she appeared in La Salette, France, and she told people of the project. People will be teleported from one place to another. When her son returns, every knee above and below the ground will bow to her son. Now, what did she mean by below the ground? Is there anything happening below ground? Our government spends trillions of dollars building underground bases that have nothing to do with making the world a better place. I'm sure most of you know that right now. So that's why they went after the Catholic Church, because the Catholic Church has scripturally and doctrinally, scripturally in Luke 22:36, you always hear how Jesus turned the other cheek. Well, there were some times where he didn't turn the other cheek. And right before he was crucified, he told the apostles in Luke 22:36, sell your cloak and buy sword. Sell your cloak and buy sword. Anybody ever hear that before? Wow, that's a miracle. That's great to see. At least somebody heard it. But nobody really hears that. They always hear, oh, he turned the other cheek, and he was very passive. No. There was times he walked into the temple and he saw money changing going on. He started throwing some people around. Okay, we don't hear about that. And Christianity and real Catholicism has nothing to do with violence. All everybody wants is take care of your field, take care of the food, take care of your children, and leave us alone, Satan. That's all we want. Everybody just wants a decent life, right? Decent job, decent income. How come they won't let us do that? How come we're walking around with very little money in our pockets, but the Satanists control oil, drugs, military? And by the way, I'd like you to visit my site when you get a chance, which is www.ccrg.info. Charlie Romeo Golf. Stands again for the Citizens Committee for Restructured Government. On our website, you will see a video of an electromagnetic engine. It runs a car. A Geo Metro was converted. You will see it. You could drive from New York to California nonstop. You don't have to plug it in. When we hear electric car, we keep thinking, oh, we got to plug it in. You don't have to plug this in. Picture a barrel inside of a barrel. On the inside of the outside barrel, you have magnets strategically placed. On the outside of the inside barrel, you have magnets strategically placed. As one attracts, the other repels. Anybody who knows anything about electricity, the engines make 80 to 100 amps of power. Enough for your house, enough for your car, enough for your business. You can put a couple together, you can scale it up and run a whole neighborhood. He would not sell his patent to the oil companies in 2006. Troy Reed has been missing ever since. Now, everyone's always saying, prove it, prove it, prove it. Well, how can we prove it if the government is killing all the proof? So the only thing, and if anybody has any better ideas, please let us know, we are looking to raise funding for a witness protection program. And what that means is we are trying to get these children out of these ritual abuse programs, government-sponsored, many of them, by the way, and get them in a witness protection program under armed guard so they can testify, oh, Senator such and such molested me, Congressman such and such, affluent businessman, and these are names you guys know. When you see the Franklin, and I'm glad Jay brought up the issue with the Franklin cover-up, you need to see that. The video is called Conspiracy of Silence. The book has a lot more information in it, and John DeCamp is a personal friend and colleague of mine, former Nebraska state senator. That's the state that he's from, by the way. So when you see what's really happening in the world and the people that are glorified, I met Kevin Trudeau, by the way. I met him at the Naval Expo in Huntington, Long Island, and I gave him my whole presentation. I said, Kevin, this is what we need. We need funding for a witness protection program so we can protect the witnesses. We have government agents that want to defect and want to testify. They're not just going to walk out onto the street. They need 20 guys with machine guns and crosses and exorcist priests to make sure that these people are going to be protected so that they can testify to the American people as to what's really happening in the world. Funding for a witness protection program. Once we have the witness protection program, we will begin taping their testimony, and of course they might even shut down the internet when we start to do this, and other things might be hindered, but we have to get the message out to everybody. And then once we've completed that message, that our government is run by Satanists, ladies and gentlemen, not people, and I'm going to cover who's running those Satanists, because they're not even to blame. And that's why I asked about dark skies, and there's a lot of people here that know about the paranormal. And we're going to cover the real reason why nothing gets done on this planet. Why there's always a sense of appeasement, but nobody's here to take care of business. And that's the difference. And we don't advocate violence, but we do advocate self-defense. And when our government is raping our land, raping our children, the gentleman also mentioned thousands of children disappearing. A lot of them are disappearing. The Chinese mafia pays $10,000 a kid. They get paid $10,000 a kid to deliver a child to to a Freemasonic cult for a ritual sacrifice. Chinese and Russian mafia are running our country right now. They're also buying up a lot of the foreclosed paper. In the old days, you know, when you had a war, you sent soldiers over to conquer a country. Chris Rock said it best. We've been in Iraq so long and gas prices have gone up. He goes, if we invaded Kentucky Fried Chicken, wings would be cheap at my house. So why are gas prices increasing? We're supposed to have access to all this oil and something. Because it's not about oil. It's about souls. It's about stealing souls and manipulating souls to their own demise. Deception, deceit, control. So, CCRG, Witness Protection Program. Then once we get that Witness Protection Program and that testimony out to the world, under constitutional law, we have a right to go to Washington, not like the Million Man farce that took place a while back with Louis Farrakhan, who's also connected with Central Intelligence, by the way. And for any of my brothers of color out there, I want you to know that Malcolm X was killed because he was exposing CIA involvement with Elijah Muhammad. Farrakhan is no better. And when I was set up, and I had my family home stolen, and I was thrown in prison, and my life was severely compromised, when I was speaking with my brothers of color in prison, I let them know that. I said, that's why they killed Malcolm X. Farrakhan is CIA. And you guys had a 1 million man march in Washington. What did you guys do when you went down there? A lot of this. If I had 1 million of my guys down there, like I said, wings would be cheap at my house. Gas would be 30 cents a gallon. And when you see the electromagnetic engine, when you hear about cold fusion technologies, when you see that we don't need oil. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, oil also acts as a buffer between the plate tectonics under the surface of the earth. So when you remove that oil, which is a buffer, what happens to those plate tectonics? Exactly. Welcome to earthquakes and tsunamis. Now, there's also something else called Project HARP, High Altitude Auroral Research Project. I'm sure a lot of you guys, I see by the nodding heads, you've all heard of that. A very hideous technology based upon Nikola Tesla technology, which was meant to free our world, not to enslave us. Nikola Tesla was involved with the Philadelphia experiment. He actually designed a lot of the technology that was involved. And when it was time to do the Philadelphia experiment, he actually sabotaged certain key elements. And he was assassinated, contrary to what everybody has been told out there. Dr. John von Neumann, the father of the modern-day computer, he got involved. They finished it up. And I'm sure you guys all know about grid points on the Earth and biorhythms and things like that. They had to do the experiment on that date, because when you do those experiments at certain grid points and biorhythms, it increases the effect. So they didn't care about the shielding that the naval personnel needed to be behind before they activated these extremely powerful magnetic generators. And again, we've all been taught that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Partially correct. You can also create a strong enough magnetic field around an object to actually bend space and time. And this is how extraterrestrials and other entities are coming to our planet. They're not using conventional linear travel. They are bending time and space with extreme gravitational technology, electrogravitics. Sorry if I'm jumping around a little bit here, but I'm going to try to piece it all together, right at the end. But it's very important that you realize, and if any of you are Catholic Christians out there especially, because remember, after they got rid of Vatican I and they ushered in Vatican II, that's when they started all these other Christian religions. And the reason why they did that is because they don't have a church militant. They don't have a church military. You need a church military to defend against Freemasonry. You can't have your government do it because they're all Masons. And their control over our reality is increasing exponentially every day. I'm sure a lot of people here know about chemtrails. The same technology and patents that are in the elements for the chemtrails are also, they're patented by a gentleman by the name of Bernard Eastlund. Bernard Eastlund also was instrumental with the HARP technologies as well. Again, taken from Tesla technology, which was supposed to be beneficial. Something else I'd like to state regarding Tesla as well. You guys all know about the Wardenclyffe Tower, free energy device, beaming electricity, wireless. Okay, very aware crowd, I love it. One of the reasons why they got rid of that whole situation is Nikola Tesla was originally discredited because he said that he had built a transceiver that was monitoring alien off-world communication. Now today, that might not surprise a lot of people, but back then, you'd be lucky to not be put into a straitjacket after making a comment like that. Now, if he wasn't such a genius, they probably would have put him in a straitjacket. But they utilized, first they discredited him, they destroyed him financially, and then they moved him to Philadelphia and other technologies, death ray technologies. But one of the reasons why they got rid of the Wardenclyffe Tower wireless energy is because if you electrify the ionosphere, you can also create a shielding effect. So now these ETs can't come and go as they please, because now there's a shield around the Earth. The BS story that they told everybody is, well, J.P. Morgan pulled the funding on the project because if you can't put a meter on it, how's he going to get paid? Well, you know as well as I do, nobody's going to put up a dime to invest anything unless you know how you're going to get paid. So how come they almost finished to completion the Wardenclyffe Tower, all of a sudden funding was pulled and the project was shut down? Because of ET involvement. Now, when I say ET, substitute the word Satan, because we've all been taught, there are extraterrestrials, and I could tell you how many testicle hairs are on an Orion Gray and how many testicle hairs are on a Pleiadian, and it doesn't solve the problem, ladies and gentlemen, okay? What solves the problem is identifying who the problem is and solving that problem, and then implementing beneficial philosophies, technologies, and economies to help our world get back on track. I'd also like to cover why nothing is really getting done. Human beings are not the godsend, and this is where I disagree with my own faith. I do not agree that we were directly from God. I believe that God made Satan, Satan made aliens, aliens go throughout the universe or the multiverse, and they seed planets to make energies. They harness orgone energy, was mentioned earlier as well. They harness our sexual energies, our emotional energies. We use less than 10% of our brains, 5% of our minds, but laboratory testing has shown that there's a very high percentage of our brain that gets utilized while we're sleeping. Who's using our minds while we're sleeping? All these strange dreams that we have. A lot of us wake up in cold sweats. Some of us even wake up with marks on our body. Mysterious things. God made Satan. Satan made the aliens. The aliens go throughout the multiverse, seed planets to turn those beings into cyborgs. Anybody know what a cyborg is? Combination man and machine. That's why they don't care about the planet. Because people ask me all the time, these crazy Masons, don't they have children? Don't they worry about what kind of world they're going to leave their kids to, and the oxygen supply and the food and the water and everything else? When you're possessed, you're only going to do what Satan wants you to do. You will sacrifice your children. The Ramseys sacrificed, gave their children to be, the child, John Bonet, to be sacrificed in a ritual murder. And again, 9 detectives resigned off the case. Nobody went to jail. So, once these beings go to different planets and seed these planets with human or humanoid life forms with very low brain utilization capabilities, they don't care what happens to the planet. It's just a big ant farm for them. And many of us in this room, as well as throughout the world, are implanted. You are implanted chemically, biologically, electronically, and occultically. Chemically, things that are being sprayed on us, chemicals in our food, strange names with words a mile long you can't even pronounce, and we have a philosophy here at the CCRG, if you can't pronounce it, don't eat it, or don't put it on your body. Exactly. Chemically, biologically, many of us have parasites. There's one thing that's not being acknowledged is the parasitical infestation of mankind. We have certain procedures that we can educate you regarding that will help kill these parasites. And by the way, every nerve in your body is connected to your brain. So once they punch in, wherever they happen to be, in your GI tract or somewhere else, they're going to override the signal in your brain, and you're going to do what they want done. I have had people on my staff become possessed, very loyal people on my staff, to physically hurt me. No control. I'm going to kill you. I also have tape recordings of it as well. And when they snap out of it, they're apologizing profusely, and I say, it's not you. Let it go. I forgive you. The possession of our world, when you control the mind, you control the person, you control the world. And I don't know any New Agers coming to you with chlorine dioxide, colloidal silver, very inexpensive flushes to get these parasites, heavy metals, and other things out of your body so you can begin to think properly. Now, whether I am accurate or not, there are 4 things that are not open for discussion. We all need air, food, water, and our immune systems, right? Without those 4 things, life does not exist. So instead of arguing about whose religion is right and what New Age belief is right and what crystal we should use to heal, we need to focus on who's destroying and manipulating those 4 elements: air, food, water, immune system. And I guarantee it leads right to the doorway of Freemasonry and Satanism. The next step after that is, once we have the witness protection program and the testimony from these agents and children that are being abused, is to take a little trip to Washington and have them removed. And I don't mean nicely. We ask nicely once, we ask nicely twice. The 3rd time, military personnel will be escorted into the White House, into other areas, to remove these leaders that are guilty of treason. Treason, ladies and gentlemen. Treason, by the way, is a hanging offense. And there is a document called the National Energy Policy Development Group Report, which implicates special interest groups, Freemasonry, and it is a treasonous document against our nation. There's a couple of movies that I'd like you all to see if you can take notes. One of them is called Blue Gold. It's a story of the impending water crisis that's happening in the world, how the Freemasons are purposely letting the water supply be destroyed while they're preparing the control of what good water is left so that you have to pay them for our simple God-given right, which should be the right of every man, woman, and child, clean, healthy water. Blue Gold, definitely see it. Another one is called Food Matters, another excellent situation. Another movie is called Dirt, the movie, which explains the importance of our topsoil. Many civilizations have fallen due to topsoil abuse, and we are well on our way. Another reason is for the GMO, the genetic modification of our food supply, is a lot of crops won't grow in conventional soil anymore. And Monsanto, who we affectionately call Monsatan, they also make the Terminator. Thank you. They also make, I can't take credit for it, there was somebody else on my staff. But yeah, it's a horror show. They make Terminator plants that don't reseed, so you have to keep buying the seeds every year from them. I mean, these guys are right from hell. You know, there's nothing to talk about, okay? But again, everyone's always going, prove it, prove it, prove it. So once we get that witness protection program and we get that testimony, when you see a little 12, 13-year-old kid go, hey, Senator such and such abused me, raped me, tortured me, it's going to be pretty hard to walk their way out of that. And I ask you again, where's your line in the sand? How much do we have to take? How much of this crap and abuse and torture and ritual murder do we have to take before we unite as citizens and go, you know what, we've had enough? And if somebody wants to bring a better plan, because, you know, our egos aren't that big, if somebody's got a better plan, bring it to the table. CCRG affiliates and directors will resign, and we will join them. But we're not seeing a better plan. We're seeing a lot of this. And we have to transform from this to what's necessary to take back our nation. And if anybody would like to create a public forum to further research what we're presenting, bring it on. And we also have a challenge to any individual or organization in the world that has more solutions to the issues plaguing our world than CCRG. I'll give you one small example. Mathematics don't lie. 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 2 = 4. You have 7 billion people on this planet breathing 22 pounds of air a day at 21% oxygen. That's how much oxygen, mathematically, the oxygen supply of the planet has to be at to sustain 7 billion people. The water, our food supply, more mathematics. Nobody's really giving anybody the mathematics of our survival. We see people piece it together, throw a little bit of here, a little bit there, but nobody really puts it together the way my team and I does. And that's because some of us used to work for the bad guys. And Satan hates it when he loses his people to Jesus Christ. He hates it more than anything. And that's why he'll do anything to make sure it never happens. There have been several attempts on my life. My family home was stolen. I was sent to prison illegally and unconstitutionally. Around the same time, I received a nomination to run for Congress under the New York Constitution Party. What a coincidence. I'm going to get on the ballot. No, you're not. You're going to go to jail. And by the time you get out of jail, because they couldn't hold me forever, and by the way, jail is a great place to get killed, by the way. There was also an attempt on my life in jail as well. And through the grace of God, okay, I'm still here and able to come to you good people and tell you what's really going on. And most importantly, the solution on how to get out of this mess. And I am not proposing anything that's not in our Constitution. We have the right, first, redress of grievances, to address those issues to Congress for solution. And then I'm going to go back to Franklin cover-up. There was a woman by the name of Alicia Owens. She was in her teens when she was part of this government-sponsored child prostitution racket. She hooked up with my friend, former Nebraska State Senator John DeCamp, who also happens to be an attorney, by the way. So now you figure, okay, I'm going to get justice. I've been abused by the system. Now Senator DeCamp, who's a legal representative of our government and an attorney, is going to get justice. Well, he took the case to court. Long story short, Alicia Owens did 7 years in jail for perjury. Picture being raped and finally making it to court to get justice, and you go to jail? I'm sorry, that's where I draw the line. The law doesn't work. This country is run, and all countries are run, by a satanic military dictatorship. That's it. Every time you vote, it doesn't mean anything. The Diebold machines, remember the Bush-Gore thing in Florida a while back? There's one part of proof. I have a colleague, Jim Condit Jr., he runs a website called votefraud.org. He has a whole list of vote fraud that's taken place in this country. So at this point, the way we see it is we need funding for a witness protection program. Once we have that witness protection program, we're bringing our government up on charges of treason of the highest order, not through a conventional court system, by the way, kind of like in a forum like this with real flesh and blood people. And then you decide who represents our country's best interest. You decide who's got the mathematics for 7 billion people on this planet to live comfortably and in peace with air, food, water, and immune systems in balance with what's necessary. One of the reasons why they don't care, again, about the destruction of our planet is because this is just a farm, one of many farms throughout the multiverse. When we see a screen, we're looking at a two-dimensional situation. When we look at each other, we see length, width, depth. There are 3, 4, 5, 6 infinite numbers of dimension and consciousness limited only by our ability to understand and comprehend them. You don't have to worry about it. You call upon the power of Jesus. In Jesus' name, Satan, we rebuke you. We bind and rebuke you and all your demons. We rebuke you and cast you back to hell where you came from. And that's the name that he hates. He doesn't care about anything else. And I've met him, well, I was going to say I've met him personally, but pretty close. And I know what he fears. And he doesn't fear New Age, and he doesn't fear Wiccans, and he doesn't fear the born-agains. What he fears are traditionalist Roman Catholics coming together and saying, you know what? You're murdering children, you're raping our world, you're raping everything. We're taking you down. And that is what needs to happen, ladies and gentlemen. Not this. Some real ass-kicking. I'm sorry? St. Michael. Absolutely. St. Michael kicks some real butt. He's got his hands tied until the old man says go. But yeah, he's a real badass dude. I come up to his kneecap. And you always see him in some type of a painting or a picture of him stepping on Satan, holding a sword. That's what they fear. Like I said, they don't fear anything else. And I don't mean to be disrespectful to anybody, but if any New Age person would like to have a forum to present the solutions plaguing our world, bring it on, because this Christian boy has done his homework. 7 billion people, air, food, water, immune system, the mathematics for our existence, the technologies for our existence, the reversal of the destruction of our planet. There's also a science called bioremediation. Bioremediation is the science of neutralizing toxic effects to create a scenario where something could be productive. Like let's say you have a waste dump that is highly toxic. There are certain chemicals and enzymes that could be introduced to neutralize the toxicity effects, so now that land could be utilized for something more beneficial. Also, nuclear stockpiles. We have a big problem with nuclear waste in this country, actually throughout the whole world. We can introduce a proton that would neutralize radioactive stockpiles. Anybody telling you about that? Anybody telling you what do we do with this nuclear waste? Because right now all we're seeing is nuclear waste dumps popping up everywhere. Also out west, they're canning the nuclear waste and it's leaking into aquifers, and Native Americans are being born with severe birth defects. And this is what happens with nuclear waste. Unless you utilize technologies to neutralize the effects, human beings, all we do is we take a bite of something, we produce tremendous amounts of garbage and waste. And most of us don't even think about it. Throw it out, throw it out. Well, where's that going? How many tons of waste do you make a year? Times 7 billion people, ladies and gentlemen. We really need to have substantial waste management and recycling programs in effect in order to ensure the survivability and sustainability of our race. Nothing else will do. And that's why they don't care about this planet. They don't care about the children, because that's their goal. use us, turn us into cyborgs. One of the things that we do, one of the first steps that we do willingly to become cyborgs is man and machine is the melding of when we get into our cars. When we get into our cars, man and machine. We all love them. We need them to get to work and do whatever we need to do. But it's realize what's happening in your mind. You are now willingly becoming a cyborg every time you walk into your car. That's the first step. Then you'll notice certain people who are paraplegic. They are presented with the option of getting a bionic prosthesis. Well, every cell in your body contains a blueprint of how you're supposed to be normally. They could actually inject the virus into your, let's say somebody lost an arm, God forbid. They can inject the virus into your body that would read that schematic in that cell and say, you're missing an arm, and then it would stimulate the cell, the gene, that would make you grow a new arm or a new organ. You don't need a kidney replacement. You don't need to be chopped up. And that's the philosophy of the AMA, the American Medical Association. Cut, burn, poison. That's the philosophy. Cut, burn, poison. If anybody here wants to make an AMA doctor look like they got a problem, walk up to one and go, how important is the immune system on a scale of 1 to 10? And you'll see the arrogance come out in most of them. They'll be, oh, well, I've been a doctor 30 years, it's an 11. Great. When's the last time you wrote a prescription? Here, take this, it's going to boost your immune system. It treats the symptoms. All these medications treat the symptoms. They don't cure. In order to cure it, your body has a self-cure. Your body has a self-heal program in it. You need to remove the interference, remove the toxins, feed the cells, boost the immune system. And then there are other things you could do to boost your mind as well, so that you can have better memory. I'm sure you're noticing a lot of people are having memory issues. Well, when you destroy the oxygen supply of the planet, we need oxygen for the neurons in our brain to connect to have memory. When that oxygen isn't there, that's not happening, that process is not happening efficiently, number one. Also, obesity. We need oxygen to help our body burn the food and turn it into energy. So we have major issues, ladies and gentlemen. And again, I want everybody to know that I'm not here, and my team is not here just to talk about the problem. If you need a little bit more, if you're on the fence and you want to find out more of what our strategy is, please contact us. Unlike other organizations like Oath Keepers, we do have a phone number on our website. Call it, and somebody will return your call to answer any questions you may have. Is anybody here a member of Oath Keepers, by the way? Anybody here Oath Keepers? Wow, that's a really slick crowd. I like that. Oath Keepers is a great idea. I love the idea, but they do not have a phone number. So what's going to happen when the Nazis come to your door at 3 o'clock in the morning to take your guns away and take your child? What are you going to do, send them an email? You see what I'm saying? So this is the problem with Oath Keepers. And if we had half of their constituency and probably 25% of the funding they get, we'd be done by now. And that's another thing that these satanic alien manipulators do. They make sure that all the money, all the resources go to organizations and people that are not going to solve the problem. And one more thing regarding Christianity. There's a direct correlation. When our country was pretty much a Christian nation up until the 60s and 70s, and then it started to fade out in the 80s, but the Masons made a major move to destroy Christianity. And I ask you, is the world a better place since Jesus Christ has been put aside in favor of New Age belief systems? Can anybody here honestly say that ever since we put the Catholic Church aside, the world is so much better? If you take a minute to think about it, I'd rather live next door to good Christians than anybody else. They're going to keep their property clean. Their kids aren't going to be blasting satanic music. They're not going to be leaving shit all over the driveway and all over the property. There's a very interesting correlation when you deal with real Christians who do things the right way, who are respectful to their neighbors and their neighborhood and to the environment. So I ask you again, is the world so much better since we started backseating Christianity in favor of New Age beliefs? I'll answer it for you. The world's going to hell in a handbasket. And all these New Age beliefs, are helping it to happen that much faster because you're not calling upon the power necessary, the power of Jesus Christ and St. Michael. Again, we bind you, Satan, in the name of Jesus Christ, and we cast you to hell, back to hell where you came from for all eternity. There's no prayers like that. They don't even have prayers like that in Vatican II. You know, it's just throw a dollar in the basket and that's it. New Agers, study this, read that, use this crystal, use that crystal. And I don't mean to, like, you know, belittle anybody, but I'm letting you know. Nobody's shooting at you, okay? Nobody's throwing you in the street, okay? Why are we getting shot at? Why are we getting killed? Why are our children being threatened, okay? Because obviously Freemasonry's afraid of us. They're not afraid of New Age. And if you don't learn anything else today, remember that. Be very careful with these New Age beliefs, because I ask you again, is the world that much better since we backburnered Christianity and brought New Age stuff to the forefront? It's worse than ever. Every single day. Worse, worse, worse. Yeah, exactly. By the way, how much time do I have left, gentlemen? 2 minutes? Okay. So in summary, once again, we challenge any individual or organization that thinks that they have a better plan for the sustainability and salvation of our world. Beneficial philosophies, technologies, and economies, bring it on. Because if somebody does have a better plan, I resign, my team, we could use a vacation, by the way. I resign, and we would join them. But that's not what we see. So God bless you all. Remember what was said here today. If you require any supporting information, we'll be very happy to provide it. But remember, there is a solution, and we have to stop talking about the problem and start implementing what's necessary to get our country back on track again. Thank you.
John Nicholson.